Well, we are so excited to be joined by Sarah Meahl. Sarah has a BA in MT with a minor in dance from Point Park University. She's been on Broadway in Death Becomes Her, which she's currently in, about to head to after this interview, Bad Cinderella, Kiss Me Kate, Hello Dolly, Paramore. She's worked regionally all over the place at places like Muni, Paper Mill Playhouse, La Jolla, the Old Globe, all the places you'd want to work. She's taught all kinds of places, and we'll talk about teaching a little bit on the episode today. She's taught at Steps, Broadway Dance Center, the Joffrey School. She's the dance director for Broadway Artist Alliance, many other places. Sarah, welcome on the pod. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, Charlie, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
There's a bright smile. For those who are not watching the YouTube, Sarah's bringing brightness, energy to the pod. We're really excited. And I was saying a bit in the pre-show, I'm so excited because we have had some amazing dancers on the podcast, but I would say of the three disciplines, it is our least addressed so far. And mostly that's just due to my own personal lack of knowledge and my skittishness to like dive deep into it in terms of the people that I know. So today I'm laying out this challenge for myself, and therefore it is a challenge for us, a challenge for you, that we're going to have a deep dive conversation into the dance world. Try to get as high level as we can, at least in terms of what I'm personally capable. Because I do feel like, we had Cameron Adams on the show. She's a great dancer. We had Ilda Mason. We had all these great people. But we definitely were like, let's talk about your life and career. And I was like, I didn't really dig into dance as much as I wish I had. So I'm going to try to do it today. Do you accept the challenge, Sarah?
I do. I'm your girl for that.
Let's go. I'm so excited. Okay. So before we dive too deep into the sort of dance technique stuff, just give me a little 60-second catch up on like, get yourself up to 16, 17 years old. I know you were a competitive dancer. Talk to me kind of like what got you up to considering college in terms of your quick life story.
I was a dance competition kid, like you said, and I knew I wanted to be a dancer, and I didn't know in what capacity because I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I had access to Disney, and all of my teachers worked at Disney. All of my dance teachers worked at Disney. So I kind of thought that was where I was going to have my career.
Like you would be a Disney dancer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a bunch of my teachers were like, hold on, there's like this thing called Broadway. And of course I had been to New York and I knew about Broadway. I just didn't, you never think that you could do it. I was like, well, I'm not getting trained in musical theater enough. So I started the drama program at my high school.
Yeah.
And it was a good drama program. And also I wanted to like be with my friends, and my friends were dancing and doing theater. So I kind of stayed because of the community.
Yep. What is the ambition before we do? Because I certainly understand the ambition of a Broadway dancer, Broadway performer. What is the like? I'm not sure I fully understand. I've never really been in Orlando. In terms, is that a career where you go? I would be like a Disney princess dancer. I guess I'm not sure exactly what. Because I kind of understand like the cruise ship world. Is it kind of like that where you're in it for 50 years as?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think I understood the long, I don't think I understood.
These aren't people who are making a career out of this for 30, 40 years.
Yes. I mean, definitely there are people who do that. And I've watched them do it because a lot of them taught me dance. But back in the day, there were people called Kids of the Kingdom at Disney World. And it was like a select group of 5 heel wearing dancers and 5 flats wearing dancers who were at the park, and they were the ones who danced and sang at the same time on the stage. They were the ones who, like when Regis and Kelly would come, which for those of you listening, that was like the most famous talk show ever.
2 old people. Yeah.
Yes. Like two awesome people in the morning that had conversations. Like they would dance with the Kids of the Kingdom. And so the Kids of the Kingdom made the most money.
Yep.
They were the faces of Disney.
Yep.
And I wanted to do that.
You wanted to be a professional Kids at the Kingdom. That was what you sort of saw as your career trajectory at that.
Yes. Yeah. And they also did the parades, and they also did like all types of shows. And you could be doing 5 shows or 6 shows at once, speaking and singing and dancing and doing all of the things, wearing all the costumes. Yeah. My dance teacher who owned my dance studio was one of them, and she was my hero. So I wanted to be just like her. And I really hadn't thought much more.
Totally makes sense. Okay, so then let's make that transition together. So you're doing your drama program at school, and now you're 17, 18, you're looking at colleges. Certainly Point Park makes sense to me of going, I can see why you would end up at a place which is dance focused, but where you're going to get an MT degree. What was that? By then, did you think, I know I want to pursue Broadway, or maybe this is a possibility? Where were you in terms of how you were approaching, looking at a college education?
I think I was afraid to say that I wanted to do Broadway because I didn't want people to be like, Sarah thinks she's good enough for that. I had like that self-doubty fear. Like I knew
you said had self-doubty fear, like you no longer do. What's wrong with you? How'd you get rid of it?
Oh, I just like believe in myself now.
Sarah, you have to give us some of that. Whatever that pill Sarah's taking, we're going to sell that at the podcast. That's a really
It
good
took a
pill to
long time.
just get
It
rid
took
of the
a few
self-doubt.
years.
You rarely hear someone be like, I used to think I wasn't good enough, but now I am. Like, that's great. I want that. I want some of what you have. That sounds great.
Ew, I know. How gross is that?
No,
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 actually,
it's great.
I've been through so much of like that self-doubtiness. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to be on the other side of like, no, I trust myself.
Yep.
But
BetterHelp.com. We got it. One of the sponsors.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard enough.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I was watching my friends apply to colleges and do all these things, and I was like, well, I think I want to do that too.
Yeah.
And I was at these dance competitions, and a lot of the feedback from the judges were like, you should look into Point Park. You're going to college soon. You should look at Point
Yeah.
Park University. And so that was a place I had heard.
Yeah.
And I had not heard of many places
Yeah.
because this was before. You have to understand, everyone listening, I don't think they understand that like back when I was auditioning, which was like the early 2000s,
Yeah.
back when I was auditioning for college, we didn't have pre-screens yet.
Yeah.
We didn't even have like a ton of YouTube videos.
They hadn't
to
invented
watch.
video cameras yet. I know. I could tell.
It was like there was not a lot of information.
No, for
So
sure.
my
And Point
mom
Park
was
was known as this is one of the best dance schools, and thought of probably a little bit more back then. Thought of specifically as a dance school, like a dance
yes,
MT school. Where now I do think people might think this is just a musical theater school, which has a strong dance program. Certainly, I know because we're about the same age. Back then, it would be like you want to be an actor, you go to Carnegie Mellon. You want to be a dancer, you go to Point Park or whatever.
yes,
It
yeah,
felt more distinct in terms of those lines, which I think have blurred a little bit since then.
I agree. And I think a lot of my teachers that were working at Disney had either heard about Point Park or went to Point
Yeah.
Park. So there is a direct, there was a direct influx of
Yeah.
like people coming, tell me you should look there.
So
And I did.
So tell me about the Point Park experience. And, I'm really interested in, and you can tell me kind of the timing of this, because we're going to start getting into our deep dance conversations. Like coming from the competitive dance world, now opening your eyes to MT, was it before Point Park? Was it at Point Park? At some point, you're going to have to make some adjustments in terms
Yeah.
of the kind of storytelling of musical theater dance. Tell me about what was that process? When did that happen? And the kind of what was that process for you in terms of what you learned?
I feel like I auditioned for Point Park pretty clueless. Like I could sing, I was taking voice lessons, I had a pretty voice, but like I didn't understand musical theater.
Yep.
I didn't even have the technique. I remember they wanted me to sing. I think I was trying to belt Till There Was You. Like I had no
Yep.
freaking clue.
Yep.
And I remember being in the final callback and we were all in it together, like other people auditioning.
Yep.
It was not just me in the room. It was everyone, which I can't believe that now. And I remember him being like, can you please sing this legit? And I had no idea what that meant.
You're like, I'm
This
legitly
was
singing
part of
it.
the
What's wrong
program.
with you? I'm legit singing
Yeah, I was
it.
like, I'm legitimately singing. No, he was like, I was like, oh, you want me to sing it like, and he was like, yeah,
Yeah.
and I did, and then I got in, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I got in
Yeah.
because I didn't even know what legit meant. But I was serving. I was like brave and serving.
Yep.
I was serving,
Mhm.
So I think that there were like a lot of reasons why I was like castable.
Uh-huh.
I was also a very strong dancer at that dance call, and I think that at most colleges they're looking for like this person can like is filling the song and dance
Yep.
track.
Yep.
This person is, everyone has like a track, if you will, and I feel like I was good for that. And
But what about specifically in the dance world? Like obviously you came in as a stronger
right.
dancer than the average, candidate or whatever. But like in terms of what you feel like, and maybe you can tell me not much. Maybe I was really strong and I stayed strong as a dancer. It's like I'm kind of interested in like what did you feel like you learned as a dancer in transitioning some of the technique that you were bringing to competitive dance into kind of the storytelling elements of musical theater, if there's any adjustments that you felt like you made.
There were so many adjustments. I first of all I had to relearn how to sing. Like when I
Mhm.
got there, I was taking they put me on an opera track
Uh-huh.
because I needed to learn technique.
Yep.
I had no vocal technique. I had no dance technique. I was strong. I was like a bull. I could tumble. I could do tricks.
Yep.
I had no ballet training, no good ballet training, and no technique. So
Tell me, break that up for me. What do you mean by no technique? Because obviously you're a strong dancer in the competitive dance. What is missing when you say I have no technique? Because I'll bet a lot of people watching will be like, "What are you talking about? She's great. She's got lots of good technique." Like,
yeah, okay.
what was
So I was
missing
like,
from
I
you?
was strong. I was strong. I was pure muscle. I was muscling my leg to my head.
Uh-huh.
I could, like I knew basic
That sounds good.
steps,
I
right?
can't muscle my leg to my head. That sounds like it's a good thing.
It was pure muscle. I had no I was not engaging my core
Uh-huh.
properly, and I had no I didn't understand the position, like, all of the ballet positions.
Yep.
I had no I wasn't taking ballet frequently enough to have any, or singing. I didn't have any good
Yep.
technique. So when I got there, they were like, strip this all away.
Uh-huh.
Let's start over with you. So I went to the fundamentals. I started over at the ballet bar.
Yep.
And it was an easier ballet class than I'd ever taken, which is actually what you need when
Uh-huh.
you are building from the ground back up and you are learning technique. You have to start over and relearn how you approach a
Yep.
basic. So vowels, I had to like really start over, and then I had to learn the musical theater canon.
Uh-huh.
All of my musical theater history classes, I had no
Yep.
knowledge of musical theater history except for the shows that were
Yep.
popular. And I see this a lot with young people coming into college or coming into my world. They're like, I know musicals. I know Mean
Mm-hmm.
Girls and Heathers and Adam's
Yeah.
Family and Beetlejuice. And I'm like, well, that's not
Yeah.
it. Okay. So you don't know anything about anything that happened pre 1960. You know nothing about the golden age of musical theater. And just like history, you can't know where we're headed if you don't know where we've
Yep.
been.
I think I love that answer. I mean, I think a lot of when we think about our students and, talking about, hey, we're trying to lay a foundation. So often people do talk about, hey, ballet is the foundation. That's a good place to start to sort of, but like, what else? If we're building a house of dance technique, like what goes on top of ballet technique? Obviously, there are other styles, but like, what else are you sort of technically learning and growing on if you're going, hey, I really now I have a strong foundation in ballet. I feel really strong in that. It's like, what else then do you build on top of that to be like, I'm a dancer who can dance all styles?
Well, I think a big part of what I needed and what I got was partnering.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even talking about be used to getting lifted above someone's head. No, be comfortable dancing with a partner and understand the relationship to each other where you have to push back.
Uh-huh.
It really does take two people pushing against each other to create a strong
Uh-huh.
partnership that is doable for both people. And a lot of people don't understand even like basic musical theater. You need to kind of like be able to waltz.
Yeah.
You need to kind of understand what it's like to go 1 2 3, 1 2 3. You kind of need to be able to do a polka. You got to be comfortable doing a little shuffle, ball
Mm-hmm.
change, a little tap dance. There's all these flavors because musical theater, we use. I actually said it. I said it beautifully yesterday to one of my castmates. We've been using, especially in Death Becomes Her, different styles of dance to color the
Yep.
musical. So if the musical is a canvas, we are using different mediums of paint throughout the whole
Mm-hmm.
show to tell the story. In one of our numbers, we are using like flamenco dancing. In one of our numbers, we're using the element of
Mm-hmm.
tango. We are borrowing from all of these major art form, like styles of dance, to tell a good story. We're also using voguing as one of those. Um, we had a waltzing number in there. We took it out. So what I'm trying to say is, like, in musical theater, each number you do in a show might be a different
Mm-hmm.
flavor. You kind of need to be comfortable moving your hips. You kind of need to be comfortable doing a waltz. You need to just kind of run the gamut of all the styles. And the only way to do that is to take many classes with many different
Yep.
humans and styles and dive into each one.
Yep, it's such a good answer, and I really like, I'm fascinated the ways in which the sort of more technical skills of singing and dancing then integrate when you talk about musical theater performance into sort of the softer storytelling elements of like the idea of partnering. I'm like, that really is then about acting. It is about some storytelling, and there's another human being in front of you to some extent, but then there's also physical dance technique that's happening too, in a way that is actually happening when you're acting and not singing. But you don't normally, it's harder to isolate the technical like movement parts of it, even though sometimes that is happening too. It feels like it's all
Yeah.
just existing in the world, but obviously when you're singing, it's like there's enough of an inorganic thing happening in the technical aspects of singing that you're trying to bring the organic to. So I'm very interested in, like, obviously for me as a dancer, I've never brought that. I've never been able to integrate and synthesize that, but I'm kind of interested in how that synthesis happens. You see it at the highest levels where you're like, technically what they're doing is amazing. It doesn't seem like they're thinking about their technique. It seems like they're just existing and
No,
performing.
no, because your technique sets you free. It's just like you with your voice and with acting and anything. Like once you've been doing it forever and you're comfortable with it, of course, first you're like, okay, let's count
Mm-hmm.
through 1 2 3 4. But then your technique starts to set you free when you remember, okay, now I understand what's happening physically, and I grew up
Yep.
doing that. So now I'm actually comfortable. My partner and I were very comfortable. Now let's weave in the story. Let's tell our story, and that becomes what you focus on because you're very comfortable with the
Yeah.
other parts. When I hear Megan Hilty, singing, I'm not like, wow, she's thinking about the
Right.
technique of her singing. No, she's running the gamut of her like
Right.
emotional journey. She doesn't need to
She's put in
think
that
about the
work. Yeah.
technique. It's setting her free. She's
Yep.
been set free already. So that's why you train. That's why a lot of people, that's why I needed school. I also will be the first person to be like, not everyone needs
Mm-hmm.
that. I needed
Yep.
academia. I just was a little behind because I had done so much dancing and not enough of the other stuff. I needed those acting
Yep.
classes, and I needed my musical theater history training. I needed all
Yep.
of that.
Well, especially in some people talk about in the way of if you're going to try to build a more sustainable career of 5 Broadway shows. It's not that you necessarily couldn't have worked at the Broadway level at 18 or 19 without going to school, but if you're going, well, I want to try to create a career. What are all the other aspects that I might need to learn to get to that point? And maybe you also did need it specifically to Broadway, but you sometimes see 17, 18-year-old dancers who are at a Broadway dance
Yeah,
level, but they still might say,
yeah,
I want to go to school for the other things, with the other life elements that aren't just about, can I make it on Broadway?
yeah. And you know what? We see that a ton in the community. I have obviously I know everyone, but like Cam
Yep.
Adams. So Cameron Adams, who you had on your podcast, is one of my greatest. She's like a
Hmm.
hero to me. She is. I look up to her so dearly, and I want to be like her. I'm so inspired by her. She didn't
Yep.
go to school. She started working
Yep.
immediately out of high school, and she has one of the greatest careers of all the showgirls of
Yep.
all time. And she learned in the
Yep.
school of life.
Hell yeah.
And some people just don't need that. Another person who has a different journey, Jess Laprado, one of
Yep.
my other favorite like heroes of dance, and just legendary performers, but
Yep.
person, both of them. Jess Laprado, when I was doing Hello Dolly with him, it was like his like seventh Broadway show. At that point, we were 27, and he was going to school
Yep.
in the mornings because he had like gone straight to Broadway out of high school and then realized like he wanted his
Yep.
degree in something else. It wasn't even like musical theater. He got a degree in like a
Yep.
normal person, like a muggle thing, and he got it
It's
at
really
school.
common. Yeah.
And he went to school during Hello Dolly, and we were so proud of him. I remember when he like graduated, we
Yep.
had a party.
So cool.
So
All right.
yeah,
One of my last questions on this, and then we're going to come back to it and loop around. But I want to just talk about like what is for the very few of our listeners, most of our listeners, and most of our MTCA students in general, I think are going to identify more as beginner dancers, sometimes advanced beginners. We'll talk about that just in
yeah.
terms of where they are. But if you're a higher level dancer, if you're someone who goes, I am a dancer first, that's where I identify. What is going on in like the high level dancers in a high level dance class? I'll say from the perspective of like me in a dance class with 2 left feet, I'm like, you guys are all doing great. Like those of us on the struggle bus are getting a lot of attention. Like we're getting a lot, but I'm also sometimes being like, what are they working on? Like, what are you doing in a dance class? You mentioned, hey, maybe this dance class is even a little bit below my level, but what if there's a class that's really pushing you at the highest level? What is the thing that like is it like going to the gym and just being like, hey, trying to get one more rep this time, or I'm trying to get a little farther?
No.
What is the thing that you're like, I'm really focused on at the highest level?
Okay, so I'm gonna like be very very honest and not even try to pretend that I'm not teaching like one of the hardest dance
Yeah.
classes that steps on Broadway, like in
Wait, so you're
BDC.
saying you're not going to
I
pretend that
I
you're
literally
not, which means you are teaching one of the highest. That's what I'm hearing. I
I
agree.
am teaching one of the hardest classes. Okay, and so but it's not like, and I think that really freaks people out. It's not that it's actually hard. It is that we are doing it, and not everyone has to, and you don't have to, but a lot of people are
Yeah.
wearing heels to that class. They're wearing heeled boots, or actually, you don't have to have a boot. You can have
Yeah.
a heel, a Laduca, a Capizio, something that has a heel on it for musical theater dance. Because I'm teaching musical theater, but I'm teaching it where okay, so it's going to be like a lot of jazz
Yeah.
and ballet influence combined. And I'm saying, and I want to like make sure that I'm not confusing the fact that I'm not teaching a
Right.
jazz class. Musical theater dance is not just like, I think we don't really understand what jazz is. Jazz is an art form that is culturally from
Yeah.
Western Africa, and it has no technique in it because it's soul and rhythm. And so what I'm teaching is like a hybrid.
Fusion.
We call it jazz arena. It's a little ballet, it has a little jazz.
Yep.
It's musical theater. There's styles of flamenco and all the things. So um, we're always going to be on the floor because I like floor work. I think I see a lot of it in auditions these days, and I think that it is kind of like an element that we miss out on for a while, where
Yep.
we're on the floor. I'm on the floor in Death Becomes Her a lot. So we're gonna do an element of dance that happens on the floor. We're going to kick. We are going to jump. we are going to turn, and we are going to be doing something
Mm-hmm.
athletic. I'm thinking Jack Cole and the style of Jack Cole, which is low. It's in plie. It's going directionally across the floor, this way, then that way. Quick directions. We are going to emulate the music. So the music might be fast, it might be slow, but we are going to be the music. So all of these things are coming together to create a dance that is like, you know, you have to work on your turn, kick, leap, jump,
And
floor.
if you're a
I'm
person in
usually
that dance class, am I thinking, hey, it's about this turn being a little tighter or getting another quarter turn in my turn or what, or am I thinking more? I guess I'm wondering, are you tending to be thinking more about those, I'm going to call them harder technique based stuff, or are you thinking more of the softer stuff? As an actor, I might be in a scene class thinking about like, I just want to be as like easy and naturalistic as possible in this run. I want to
right,
what kind of stuff is going through my head? Because again, I've never had this experience of being like, I'm a high level
right, right,
dancer.
right.
Like, is it more about, I'm just trying to get a good sweat on, get out of my head? Like, what am I
That
thinking in
part.
terms of myself as a dancer?
So I think it depends on the dancer who comes into class. What I'm giving you in class is a safe place without a camera,
Yep.
unless I'm teaching a spotlight. That's different. A spotlight's when they film and it's a longer class. I'm giving you a safe place to try some shit, some stuff.
Mhm.
Sorry. Oh my god.
No, we can swear on this podcast.
Okay,
It's
okay, okay. I curse in my class and I'm like a clown. It's horrible.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm giving you a safe place to try some stuff that's hard. You're going to fall out of your turn. You're going to forget it. You're going to mess it up. I usually teach about a minute of choreo at least,
Mhm.
usually a little bit longer. So it's sometimes people are coming to class to get that challenge of picking up the choreo fast.
Mhm.
Sometimes people are really good at that, but they're really bad at their pirouettes and they're really bad at this style of dance. So
Mhm.
they're coming to take, or not really bad at, but like they want to
Right.
get
They
better
want
at.
to work on this. Yeah.
Some of them want to work on not getting in their head so that because a lot of people are capable of picking up choreo and they're capable of dancing this hard, but someone hurt them.
Yep.
Like some choreographer messed with them or something happened to them that made them lose their confidence. I've
Right.
been there. I know what that is. So some people are coming to heal. Some people
Yep.
are coming to remember why they love dance. And some people need to get a good warm up for their show that they're doing later.
Yep.
People
Yep.
are coming to the class for all different reasons. And I give space for that. And I tell my class, my students, I'm like, listen, I know all of you are here for a different reason. I'm not going to ask you what your reason is. Just you be aware of why you're here.
Yep.
And if it's to show up for yourself because you need a good workout, you're going to get it.
Yep.
You're going to be sweaty, sweaty, sweaty. You're going to be out of breath. We're going to try really hard. Just keep trying. This is class. You are not supposed to be a product. This is class.
Yep.
You get to fail. You get to try stuff. So that's why I'm like, yes, it's hard, but it's supposed to be hard because it's class.
Yep.
This is not for you to shine. This is for you to work on it.
Yep. No, it makes
And
a lot
then
of sense.
people go and book auditions because auditions are always just as hard, if not easier, than what they're doing when they're practicing with me.
Yep. But we need that practice. I mean, especially as we get out of school, and we'll say a second here talk about you graduating from school. But as you get out of school and sort of you get busy, your lives are going on, and especially if you have a lot of auditions.
Yep.
If there is something going on psychologically in your auditions that isn't going well, it's like it can be this like weird self-defeating cycle where you're like, okay, the only time I'm encountering it then is when I'm back in the audition room. Like it's nice to be like, let me have a little practice run of that in what we do in high school. Go get a little mock and go, let me sweat that out and work that out. And then so the next time I'm encountering it isn't when the stakes are so high. And God, this is happening to me again.
Sometimes people need I know for dance, so I can imagine it, everyone's going to feel this way about their elements, singing, dancing, acting, whatever. Some people need to dance for their soul.
Yeah.
You started dancing because you loved it. We need to reconnect with the thing that we've now monetized, right?
Yeah.
So like now dancing is not just my joy, it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
I have to dance now. I have to teach it and I have to do it at night.
Yep.
So like you're going to establish as you get older and you choose this business, you're going to establish a different relationship with the thing that you once loved so much.
Yep.
And how do you keep that healthy? I know for a while I didn't. And every time I danced, I wanted to cry. And I loathed going to auditions because I had fear attached and sadness attached to the thing that used to be my favorite thing. And I had to refine that. And I refound that through teaching and going to class.
So
I was not always a class person. And I know a lot of people don't have time or money to be a class person.
Yep.
But the second I started taking class and teaching class, I was like, oh, I asked for classes for Christmas one year and for my
Mm-hmm.
birthday from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, class. Or I'd be like, can I please have a plane ticket so I can
Mm-hmm.
go audition for the Muni,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that was sort of how I started going, like, okay, I'm showing up because I'm asking for these things. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
it does. So well said. All right, we're gonna take a short break, and on the back end, we'll get a little bit deeper into your career. So we're right back. All right, we're back with the great Sarah Meahl. We kind of jumped into because I'm interested in this deep level conversation about dance. I want to keep having it. But we kind of jumped through your career. So let's go back a little bit to the post collegiate days. Can you tell me a little bit about like what were those first few years post college, building your resume, finding representation? Did you get an agent right out of a showcase kind of situation? Talk to me
I,
about that, and then what the first couple years were like for you.
okay. At Point Park, when I used to go there, this is not the case now at Point Park, but it was selective. They only picked 12 people for their showcase
Mm-hmm.
out of the 80 students
Mm-hmm.
that they had, or like how, I don't know, there were like 40 of us MTs or something, and then there were acting majors too. They picked 12 of us to go to. We went to California.
Mm-hmm.
We went to LA and New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yay, I get to go to California. I've never been, but like I knew I wanted to be in New York. I thought maybe I'd want to be like bi-coastal, sign with an agency. I ended up signing with Block,
Mm-hmm.
New York, right out of school, and I was with them for a very long time. And they were great for me. I was like talking to a few agents, but I did get my agent from my showcase. I
Mm-hmm.
was the only person who did a song and dance. Everyone else just sang
Uh-huh.
or did a monologue, but I sang a song and did I think 6 count of 8 dance break.
Uh-huh.
And I put all the tricks in there, and it was real clunky, but whatever.
I just want
So
to see
that's
those
how I
tricks.
got my, yeah, that's how I got my agent. And then, but before I got that agent, I had already done a summer at the Muni. So I think it was like, I was, appetizing to an agency
Uh-huh.
because I had
Seeing you
already,
work.
yeah,
Yep.
I had already had like, a little resume going.
Yep.
And so then, I worked with them. Right when I got out of school, I moved to, I did my second summer at the Muni.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 3 shows. That's when you were like there for the whole summer,
Mm-hmm.
and you just did like double duty all summer. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They also
Rehearsing,
were like
performing. Yeah.
till like 3 a.m. It was crazy.
Yep.
They don't do that anymore. Like all that is over with. It's healthier now. And so I was at the Muni, and then straight from the Muni, I came to New York City, and I got a sublet with my boyfriend from college, and
who you're still with to this day.
no. No, but he's doing very well too.
And actually, we're bringing him on right now. He's in the waiting room. So we're.
Oh my God, no. Anyway, so we definitely like we're sharing in a little sublet, so we could afford our lives. And then I immediately booked something. I think I booked a lab, and then from there, I went to Walnut Street and I played Zanita
Heck yes.
in The Music Man. And then like from there, I did the next thing. I was at Paper Mill, and then I did another Paper Mill show kind of like right away. And then I worked at Kansas City Starlight, and I was just like hitting all like the big
regional.
And I went back to the Muni that summer. And then I booked like the Little Mermaid tour.
Yep.
And that's, so then, okay. Then I started booking some out of town tryouts that never went to Broadway.
Yep.
Like there were like 3 or 4 of those in a row that were like Broadway bound, and then none of them happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then I dislocated my knee. I wrapped my knee around the back of my leg. I was out for like almost a full year.
Oof.
So I started teaching.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't teach obviously a dance class, but I could teach like baby dance class. So I taught baby ballet to 3-year-olds. I taught baby tap. I started teaching tumbling, like baby tumbling. Then I started teaching big girl tumbling. Then I was like fully teaching people how to do gymnastics. That was a big part of my training as a kid. And I got into the world of teaching by accident because I was injured, and it was like the greatest thing that ever happened. All that being said, I was 25 before I booked my first real Broadway show. And I'm saying real because I thought I booked it twice before that. And so I was 25 when I got that phone call. I was making a tuna fish sandwich by myself. It was super not shiny, not like, now I see all these people like hearing that they booked a Broadway show and they're with someone who's recording and they're like crying, and it's a beautiful New York moment. Mine was like, it couldn't have been like more sad.
Yeah. No, that's not happening.
Yeah. And then, so I didn't debut that show until I was about 26 and a half.
Yeah.
And, That
You make
is,
that sound like that's so old. Like, I think a lot of our listeners are like, "That's 4 years out of school? That's not so bad. That's pretty good."
but well,
After a lot of
I was
steady work.
watching a lot of people do it
Yeah.
before me, and I was in New York, and I felt like I was bashing my head
Yeah.
against the wall. That's like, it was like 4 years that I was really, really, really. I felt like in my prime dance
Right.
wise until the knee thing.
Yep.
But I made a full recovery with that, and so I just want to like shout out to injuries. If you have one, if you think that you're put out and you'll never do it, we heal,
Yep.
babies. We
Shout out
heal.
to injuries. But
You got to pay your dancer dues, you know.
for sure. But I kind of, I'm so interested in, I love that word tricks. I'm going to kind of highlight and maybe come back to for those of us who are not dancers to be like, what do we really mean there? Because I'm kind of curious as like, as a dancer, as an ensemble member, so it's not. I'm just using dance just to talk about it as a separate discipline. But when you're saying, "Hey, I'm really trying to book a Broadway show, establish a Broadway career as an ensemble member," like what is it to make a splash, or what is it to make yourself known when you're first like trying to be like, I want to be seen, but of course, part of being an ensemble is like the spotlight's not on you the whole time. We don't want it to be the whole. It's not Megan Healthy walking out and being like, let me just
Right.
absolutely rip this note and go, who the hell was that? Though
Yeah.
to some extent, there are moments like that happen for any dancer and an ensemble member in the show. But like, I guess like as you're auditioning or as you're trying to like get in front of people, what is the version of like of getting yourself on the map or sort of being seen in that way?
Well, I think that what I okay, so I'm going to speak to like the highest level of like when I think of choreographers, and I'm thinking of Warren Carlyle and Josh
Yeah.
Bergasse, and people who are hiring. First of all, being well rounded, because okay, I'm going to use Bad Cinderella as no, I won't use Bad Cinderella. I'm going to use like Hello
Yeah.
Dolly. Okay, so when I auditioned for Hello Dolly, they want the highest level of dancer to come in. You might not be doing the hardest
Right.
thing, but they need to know that you can do the
Right.
hardest
It
thing.
gives them all the
And
options.
then you might be just standing there singing and like doing a fan kick at
Yeah.
one point, but they need to know that you have the technique and that you have the bravura. So sometimes I don't think it's like being the greatest dancer is being the most well-rounded dancer who can also sing and do sides.
Yep.
So I don't think anyone's asking you to be the best dancer.
Yep.
Have the best technique. Are you a smart actor who can remain in that dance call after there's like a little ballet across the floor, and it's tombe pas de break, glissade, big leap,
Yep.
like that part, and then there's tap audition. You have tap shoes, and you can hold your own for a few counts of
Yep.
8 in the tap audition
Yep.
because you understand that. And then they're like, okay, now there's a partnering call.
Yep.
And you can partner, and not only can you partner, but you had a good relationship while you were speaking with the partner that you'd never met before in the audition room, which is what happens all the time for Broadway. It's like, you go through the first couple rounds of the audition, and then you have to partner. And they're not only looking for like whether you can hold your core and get lifted or be the one
Yep.
lifting, or share weight,
Yep.
but they're also making sure that you can have a good dialogue and a good conversation and relationship with this partner. So now they've seen you do 3 different styles of dance. They hand you sides, and they have you sing a song. Can you sing?
Yep.
Are you comfortable singing? Sometimes they're like, well, she was fine, but she was really comfortable singing. My voice is not, I have a fine
Yep.
voice. I'm very comfortable because I'm used to singing in front of people. So even if I'm not like the most talented, I'm going to walk in there. I got
Yep.
you. Like, we're going to have fun. I have a couple songs I'm real good
Yep.
at, and I'm really used
Yep.
to, and that's comforting. And then I make some choices on the
Yep.
sides. And not just me, but like that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone. There's a famous Broadway legend, Corrine, who also plays leads, named Lisa Gaida. And I remember she's done like 18 Broadway shows or something. And they always say like, make a Lisa Gaida choice. That's what people want. Like, take the sides, make a choice, make a strong choice. That's what's going to help people remember you. So even when you're in the dance audition, come at it with a character. Make a choice.
It's so fun.
It doesn't have to be a trick. It doesn't have to be, an aerial. You don't have to do a flip in the audition to make a strong choice. One of my favorite things I ever saw someone do was in the Escape to Margaritaville audition. She pretended she was a waitress holding like a tray of shots, and it was hilarious. And she did Autumn Gazzardi did this whole bit. Anyway, it was it was iconic, and
It's
she
so
booked
cool.
it.
I mean, it really is fun hearing that feels like the reverse or the yin to the yang, I guess, of the advice we're so often giving to our more beginning dancers of like, hey, listen, you might not end up being the greatest dancer in the next 9 months, but we can get you to the point where you're comfortable. We can get you to the point where you can act the dance call as best as possible. Yeah,
Comfortable.
that comfortable is a good word. Of you're not in your head, you're not, looking like you're uncomfortable in your own skin, and makes you be like, I could work with that person, even if you're not the strongest singer, you're not the strongest dancer. But I want to try to get you to tell me, because all that makes sense to me. And I think that's my experience of, when I think about the people who've had these long lasting careers in ensembles, so much of it is about the softer skills. So much of it is about, man, they're great to work with. And I think the biggest thing I'm taking from you, you're saying versatility. Totally agree. Versatility meaning, because I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with you in the room. There might be a comedy moment. There may be a pretty serious acting moment. I don't know what I'm going to need from you, but you being that versatile. And yes, you can hold your own singing and all those different styles. Versatility makes so much sense to me of what would be good in an ensemble member. I'm still thinking about you at that showcase, though. You said I did 6 to 8 bars and I did some tricks. Like, what was the thing that you're like? Was there something that you're like, I'm so athletic, I'm so flexible? Is it about I'm
Yeah.
tumbling? Like, because I think there are sometimes people who are like, what are those things that maybe
What is
pops
it?
the amount and makes you go, oh, I remember Sarah. She did a backflip, or she did,
Yeah. Okay. So I remember I went walk, walk, step, hitch, kick, and I can like, my leg
Yeah.
goes.
For those not
So,
watching the
and
video,
I'm
that was
really
her arm like
flexible.
going back behind her head. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry. Sorry.
It's an
Sorry. Sorry.
audio
So
medium, Sarah. You've been dancing this
I'm doing
entire
right,
time.
right.
It's great.
Wow.
There are people watching the video, but most people who'll be listening will not be getting the full show that you've been giving us this whole
Totally.
time.
So I kicked
Yeah.
behind my head. Like I kicked my leg to my head, but it
Yeah.
went behind because that's my
That's your
thing.
thing. Very
That's
flexible.
always been my thing. I'm very flexible. And then I think I did a fan kick and I did 3 pirouettes at
Yeah.
the end. And then I like did a little
Yeah.
hip. So like, in a world where, and I did a layout, which is, you kick your leg and then you lean all the
Yeah.
way back and it's like a
Yeah.
wow. So I think that I showed that, hey, I'm a technical dancer. I sing okay, and like
Yeah.
here's why you're gonna hire me, because I can do song and dance. And it was a good little moment. And sometimes like if my song goes awry in an audition, I'll end holding my leg
You're like, well, I still can do this. Don't forget about that.
near my head. Yeah, and it's like a really good. It's like a way to be like hee
Yeah.
hee. See, remember I'm a dancer.
Yep. But see, like, I love that answer, because, of course, I think we can understand some of that physical, technical stuff that not all of our listeners be able to do. But I feel like I'm getting from that not only here are my skills, but also like here's my sense of humor. Like I'm getting your personality from that too. Of like I can see I'm looking at your resume. I can see some of the shows you've been in. I'm like, this would be good in that. That would be like I can see how some of the physical comedy, which is just acting, really, it's just physical acting
Yeah.
that you could do, that you'd be pulling off too with your
Oh,
flexibility.
physical comedy is my
Yeah.
favorite part. It's like my whole reason. And I think I sang "Always True to You" in my fashion. I think, and I had like the dee 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 bow da 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 da. Like so it was like flirty and fun, and it was
Yeah.
like hee hee, like a little secret, and it was like very. It felt very me, especially at that
Yep.
time. Um,
Did you think
yeah.
about, as you're looking at your career? I mean, obviously, for the most part, I imagine kind of taking the work in front of you. Here, this is a Broadway show, and you're thinking about the pay and all the other things. But were you also thinking about like, hey, it's not bad that I'm doing a couple comedies in a row if I do a couple comedies, or something that fits in this specific genre of MT? Or are you almost thinking? Were you ever thinking like, hey, I want to try to diversify my, sometimes actors would think about like, man, I've done a lot of Shakespeare in a row. Like, I don't want to be known as the Shakespeare guy, or maybe I do. Maybe I want to do a lot of. I want my whole career to be Shakespeare. Like, were you thinking about that, or is it more like I got to take what's in front of me?
Not even I got to take what's in front of me, because I definitely have been very selective. Like I picked Death Becomes Her out of other
Yep.
things that I was offered.
Okay, humble
Um,
brag. I get it now. I see where that confidence. I was offered multiple Broadway shows, and I picked
no,
this one. Hell yeah,
and
that's
I
good. It's
want to do
amazing.
them
It's
all.
good. That's great that you're there.
I want, you want to do everything
Yep.
that happens, but also like, but you can't. And this felt aligned with my sense of
Uh-huh.
humor. I usually am doing a campy thing because I'm really good at camp in
Yep.
the room. Like, if we're doing sides, I'm your
Yep.
girl. Like
For camp.
I love that. That's
Yep.
my humor.
Totally see
And
that.
so sometimes I feel like the project
Yep.
finds you, and you find like it's just the universe bringing you to the
Yep.
right thing. And I've always been like, I want
Yep.
that one. Um, my first show was Cirque du Soleil
Yep.
Paramore as a gymnast first, who like
Yep.
started with gymnastics and grew up loving Cirque du Soleil. I knew that
Right.
was my show, and I saw that was my Broadway debut, and I saw that
Yep.
breakdown come out, and
This
I
is
went,
it. Yep.
"That's mine. That's mine." And then Hello Dolly, I was like,
Uh-huh.
"That's mine." And I dated that one. I like went in and I went in and I went in and I went in for other stuff
Yep.
Warren was doing. And it was like, please sing a pop
Yep.
song. And I'd be like, ooh, like I knew one day I was
Yep.
going to do Hello Dolly. And
That's
I did.
awesome.
So sometimes like, the project finds you, and sometimes you find the project and or you're like, out of all these things, I want all of this, but I'm going to pick that one.
Yep.
Or sometimes nothing happens for a while and you're like, I guess
Yep.
I'll wait.
Well,
And that's fine too. So I don't care about diversifying my resume. I want to do the thing that I just suddenly know in my gut
do
is
you
the
think
thing.
about for yourself now? I mean, obviously, you're still in your physical prime. You seem very young, but
Oh, that's
but
sweet.
do you
Thank you,
think
buddy.
about like, hey, in terms of now having established many Broadway shows and certainly a teaching career? Well, we're going to get into social media here in a second too. Having established those things, do you think about like, okay, the next step then? Is it going to be more TV and
Yes.
film? Is it more thinking about playing lead roles? Like, what feels like, hey, this seems like my avenue of how I can use what I've built, but diversify. At some point, you'll be 60 and probably not going to be whopping, as you said, and kicking your leg behind your head, or
No, but I will. No, but I have big plans, and I see my career. I'm not talking about my
Mm-hmm.
performing career, but I see my creative career as a
Mm-hmm.
long one. And I'm not exactly sure how it's going to unfold, but I know that having this like
Yeah.
teaching moment in New York
Yeah.
isn't a moment. I'm going to be doing that for a long time. I want to
Yeah.
choreograph. I
Yeah.
want to direct. I already am doing those things. I just choreographed and directed 2 shows at Hershey Park this summer. I choreographed and directed a few things in New York
Yep.
last year. And this year, and I have other opportunities
Yep.
up ahead of things that I'm going to be directing and choreographing. So I think that I see a future for myself doing something
Yep.
along those lines, and I love it, and I want to be a creative person. I don't know exactly what that looks like because I am still performing, but I can smell it, and I know that there's
Yep.
something great ahead. And I'm trusting that the universe, just like it found me those shows, will continue to find me the right projects and the
Yep.
right people to align myself with, and to shoot
Believe in
ideas off
yourself
of
and
and
trust. Those are
create
2
with.
pills we're gonna have to get from you, that wherever you're getting those are good. Let's talk a little bit about social media then. So I don't know how much of that is you thinking about in terms of potentially a revenue source at some point. Who knows? But can you talk to me a little bit? How did you create and build yourself a following? And in terms of as a dancer, I think that is something that's really impressive. That you had some videos go viral and some of these exciting things. Was that more like I should have to do this for class, or this is something I just am curious about? Was that a conscious thing of like I'm going to try to build this thing for myself as in the industry? Or how did you approach that?
I did. I did not even mean to.
The
All of
camera
it
just turned
fell.
on
It
accidentally,
felt.
and I'm dancing, and who knows? Oh, and then
Oh,
beautifully lit. How
darn!
did this
It's
happen?
Judy dancing. Oh, darn. No, I think that like I really didn't want to do the whole spotlight video thing because I used to get really nervous dancing in front of the camera, and didn't believe in myself as a dancer anymore, like we were talking about, and I didn't really think I was good enough, and I didn't want people to think I was good,
Right.
I thought I was
It
good
feels
enough, because like
arrogant or
that
whatever.
icked me
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I didn't want people to think like, oh, she wants to put
Right.
herself on the camera all the time. And then I was like, no, I have this beautiful opportunity to help all these dancers and like get footage. And in a world where, so I'm friends with a casting director who every time we talk
Yep.
about a dancer, and I'm talking
Yep.
about like my students, I'll be like, oh my God, this one really amazing dancer, whoever. And the first
Right.
thing we
You'll
do is
show me.
all get
Yeah.
on our cell phones and look
I
it
know.
up on
It's terrible.
Instagram, that
But yeah,
person.
it's the world we
So
live in.
we're looking
Yep.
at your Instagram. And I'm like, okay, so in a world where we're looking you up, and I'm getting lists
Yep.
of talent for, whatever show I get to choreograph this week or this month, I'm getting a list of talent. The first thing I do is go to their Instagram, because how else do you
Unbelievable.
find people? Not
Yep.
everyone has a good website, and not everyone has like
Yep.
footage on YouTube. So if I need to see who you are, the first thing I know you probably have is an
Yep.
Instagram or a TikTok. So I'm going to probably, because I'm a millennial. So, and I'm the one casting
Yep.
you, or I'm the one hiring you. So if you know that the millennials are the ones right now who are in that
Yep.
position of power, you are going to have your Instagram ready, and you are going to have a video pinned. So I started telling all my dancers, I was like, I need to be doing these spotlights because I need everyone to have footage, because I need to be able to
Yes.
show my friend who is casting you and the person I want to hire, I
Yep.
need you to have footage. So that is how that happened. And so I just created this one dance after a vacation. I felt like very clear minded, and I had this one great dance that did really well. and it sort of like put
Yep.
me on the map. It like went very, very viral, and Steps had never seen anything like that before, in terms of like recording, because recording didn't really happen
Yep.
until the pandemic.
For
These
sure.
spotlight classes kind of became a thing during 2020, and that's sort of when I became a part of it.
And
It
is
was like
that like,
2022,
would you think that is the
2021.
medium? Like, is that like TikTok had more dancing and so that made it more, or is it still, is Instagram now, I guess, echoing that? Or I guess I had not really seen dance
I don't know which one
videos
came
as a
first.
thing.
I think that like, well, first of all, I we didn't even have like
Uh-huh.
stories. When I first did my first Broadway show,
Yep.
Instagram didn't even have stories. You couldn't even post one. You only had like a picture. You couldn't post a video. Now I think that when TikTok became such a thing
Yep.
with like the reels, if you will, then Instagram took that too and
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
we're cool too, we're cool too. And it's so like, usually if you see, they always say like, I get my information properly. Like if TikTok had a reel,
Yep.
I see it 2 weeks
Exactly. Yeah.
later on Instagram. And that's what the
For sure. And
millennials
that's
are
who's
looking
casting it.
at. So it makes sense that you're
I'll
going to play
never
that
forget when
game.
Elizabeth said that. We were like, did this huge website overhauls maybe 5 years ago. It's my wife. And she was like, yeah, but I'm looking at your Instagram. She's like, what's your Instagram look like? I was like, but we spent all this, we look at our beautiful website. She's like, yeah, but that's not where anyone looks. Like, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a website link, great. Maybe I'll
Right.
click on
But
it from
that's where
your
you start.
Instagram.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, but like, let me start with your page. So have something pinned of you doing whatever you want to showcase. If you don't have dancing, I'm going,
You're
oh,
not a
this
dancer. If you
person's
didn't
not really
pin
a
that
dancer.
thing first on your thing. Yeah.
If
So
you
true.
didn't, yeah, and that's okay. Or if and that's okay too. You don't have to be a dancer, but if you're trying to get hired by
Yeah.
me, I need to see that you're a dancer, or I need to see that I think you
Yep.
could maybe do this. Like, and I'm
Yep.
not saying twirl and kick, but like hold your own. Give me at least like
Yeah. But now, is this
personality.
something that you're thinking about
Brave.
trying? Maybe you already have started to monetize. I mean, our crack research team found that there may be some sort of special sponsorship with LaDuca coming. Is that true, or they may already be there? No, you're looking at me like I'm absolutely crazy. You're like that didn't happen. I don't know.
I no Leduca. Yeah, my shoe just
Oh,
was
heck
released
yes, in
in June.
June. It's already happened. It's already released.
Yeah,
Purchasable now.
it already happened. Yeah. Leduca celebrate, every year Leduca Shoes has like a special commemorative collection where they feature a few dancers and like name a shoe after
Hell yeah.
them. And they named a shoe after me, and it's my shoe. Do you want to see it?
Yes, of course.
Oh,
Put it up
and
on the
I'll
social.
describe it. It's right here. This is the
Okay.
silver one. It's
Sarah
called the
is
Showstopper.
holding a silver
Meahl
shoe.
heel.
It's got a boot. I would say it's a 2 inch heel. It's
It's a
got
2.5 inch
lattice. It's a
heel.
2.5 inch heel. It's got lattice. She's holding it delicately by the back, and now she's twirling it. It's got a
So
zipper, just
it's
like my daughter's shoes, where you can
Yep,
zip into
it has
them.
a zipper,
Hmm.
just like a toddler.
Hmm.
No, I tuck the laces in. This is a booty, so it's the first booty to ever be released at Leduca. Meaning, it's not just a heel. It's not a heel, and it's not a boot.
Uh-huh.
It's a
It's a
booty.
booty. It's fusion,
And so it goes
just
above
like
your
your
ankle,
glasses.
and it's supportive. And I designed this with Phil because I needed a shoe. Well, Phil designed it. I echoed
Hmm.
what I thought would be important for my class is something I wanted to get I wanted a shoe that I could take my own
Mm.
class in. And because we're very athletic in my class and I come from such a like gymnastic background, we're all over the floor. And I like to bridge, even though we're in heels, I want class to feel sporty. I want it to feel like it's a football game.
Mm.
In a way that like it's not just for a certain gender. It's a limitless class for any human.
Mm.
And I want everyone to feel celebrated in it. So it's something that feels like, yes, you may be a heel wearing dancer, you may be wearing a dress, you may be wearing pants, whatever it is, you can do my choreography and you can do it in a heel if you want,
Heck yes.
because we're strong
All right.
and anyone can do
We'll
it.
definitely put that link in the show notes. And you're transitioning us beautifully. I promised we'd end with a little bit of teaching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get a couple questions about that because, started off with that question about the more advanced human being who, like yourself, who's in a class, what are you working on? I would imagine, and it seems like you also have taught a lot of more advanced students in terms of the classes that you're doing.
I've taught the
You've
gamut,
taught the
Charlie.
gamut, of course. Well, let's talk
Oh,
about the other end of the gamut because the
okay.
vast majority of our MTCA students, I think, will tend to identify as beginners, maybe advanced
Yeah,
beginners when they're starting out. You know, i-
that's okay.
if
That's
you
great.
had, let's imagine, a lot of them are 16, 17 when we first meet them. If they have a year, 9 months, 6 months, whatever it is before their college auditions, what would you give them as a goal, or what do you think is realistic for them to achieve in terms of they're getting into class? What should they be thinking about and working on in the course of their year before their college auditions?
There's two things. The first one is what you're expecting me to say. The first thing that you should focus on, which is the least important one, is your like your fundamental knowledge of the beginner terms. Understand what it is to do a plie, because understand what it is to tendu, a chaîné turn. Like, be familiar with the basic vocabulary of
This is
dance.
what you think I'm
Chassé.
expecting you to say.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is what
great.
I think
The
everyone's
least important
expecting
one.
me to
Okay,
say.
give me the important one. Yeah,
And this is very easy, because this
right.
you can get at any
Take a
class.
little
Like, if
French.
you go to
You're done.
a beginner class, you're going to learn all these
Yep.
terms. So get your booty into a beginner class so that you are brave enough and familiar enough with the simple things. I think preparedness is confidence. So if you just take the class, you're gonna be like, well, I took the class, so I feel confident at this callback.
Yep.
I feel confident putting myself on camera doing a 60, because some of these schools like FSU, I think, and there's like a handful of others that want you to do a 30 to 60 second. I think it's 30 seconds for they want a 60-second, obviously, like dance for your pre-screen, but they want 30 seconds of ballet, and in that they want pliés, they want tendus, they want a battement and a pirouette, and there might be like one or two other things. I choreograph these for people all summer long. Every summer, I like bought a house doing this. Like, it is literally like everyone needs to put their footage on camera for your pre-screen. The most important thing you can do, aside from making sure that you are aware of that information, that beginner like dance info, and I'm saying dance, not ballet, because it's really like a chassé is also like,
sure. Yeah.
Musical theater across the floor, like jazz, whatever. The most important thing you can do is have your own sense of style. Look in a mirror, do it by yourself. So if it makes you feel more comfortable, understand your angles, know what makes you feel cute or good. So if you are a heels wearing person, understand like how you're going to shoulder roll, because when I see people learn choreography, I'm not looking for the one who's the most technical. I am looking for the one who is the most like living. If you can live because you're comfortable in a shoulder roll or in a head roll and you love it, and I can tell that you love to dance, or that you are eating and you just love to serve, like, that is so much more delicious for me. Then I want you, because you have a personality. I need you on my team, because you're going to tell stories.
You're making me hungry. They're serving, they're eating, it's delicious.
Oh, babe, those are the lingos
know.
right now. Let me tell you, my last name is Meahl, so we love to play into like
Have
the
that
full
happy meal. I know.
balance. So, but like this whole thing, like the idea of the shoulder roll, and like it coming from a place of like, I love this. This is fun for me. It's delicious to do a jazz hand. Like, that stuff is so much more important to me than the technical stuff. So, and if you are not a heels wearing person, if you are wearing flats and you've got a little bit of game, if you come in, you're like, sup, and you have some swag, whatever that is so much more attractive and appealing to someone who wants to hire you, to see that you have a connection and you're telling a story and like it feels good in your bones. So turn on some music and like find your groove and feel comfortable grooving, because that wins 100% of the time. Where sometimes I see the most technical dancers who are boring, they have no story to tell, and they're freaked out and they're afraid, and I can't use them.
It's so well said. Such good advice. Actually, if you believe it, that second part was probably more of what I expect you to say than the first part, but they're both great pieces of advice. I want to just give you a chance, because we're wrapping up here. I know you've got to hit your Death Becomes Her call. It's coming. I want to broaden up the advice. I've wanted to focus so much on the dance of it all, but just, as somebody who impacts young people's lives, I'd love to kind of hear just what is your advice in general to a young person going through this process and really just entering this career. If you prefer, and if you have any advice we haven't really talked about the parents. We have many parent listeners too. If you prefer to give advice to parents and how they can help their child, I'm also game for that. But just any advice that goes beyond just the dance of it all in terms of their
I do. I have a few things, Charlie, and I think they're all things that I've because I knew I was interviewing with you today on this podcast, and I was really thinking last night during my show. I had a few moments where I was like, if little Sarah knew what big Sarah would be doing right now, like, it's actually probably not what I thought. So I do want to highlight a few things. One of them, identify what you require in life. As soon as you do that, the happier you're going to be. So what I mean by that is, like, I realized around 26, 27, after like being on Broadway and being like, yay, I'm on Broadway. Oh crap, I need trees. I require outdoors. I'm from the swamp. I need to feel like I'm in nature. I crave that. So I ended up saving up all my twirling coins, and I bought a house
Mm-hmm.
upstate, and I escaped there. It's my escape, and I need
Mm-hmm.
that. I need to live there to make me happy. I rather commute than live in New
Mm-hmm.
York City full time. So that I identified what I need. I need that to
Yep.
be
I love
happy.
that.
Yeah. So like it might not be outdoors. It might, for you, it might be like, I need my
Yep.
family. I need to FaceTime my family, or, like identify the things that make you tick. Sunlight. Right now I'm in this very sad apartment with no sunlight. And I know the next time I get an apartment in Midtown, I
Sunlight
have
is
to
a
have
requirement.
sunlight.
Yeah, I hear that.
A requirement for me. Okay. So last night I was doing one of my quick changes in a spot in the theater called the Birth Canal. It is called the Birth Canal because it is shaped like a piece of pizza, and it gets so tiny at the end, and that's where I do my change. It is like scary concrete. These theaters are old. There might be like a bug in the corner. This business, we think it's real glamorous, showbiz. There are elements of glamour, and what you're seeing on Instagram is like a highlight reel of all the glamour that is. And then like there's like a rat trap underneath my station where I take a nap.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like, let's be very clear. You're living in New York City. There's gonna be a like some type of mouse-ish
people shooting up on the street right outside your theater.
vermin, and like you're gonna like try not to step on it. It's not as glamorous as like what you might think, and especially if you're in the ensemble. So and you're probably going to be in the ensemble, babes. Like, even if you're going to be a Sutton Foster track and that's where you're headed, Sutton Foster was in the ensemble. Sutton Foster understudied the lead. That is how she became Sutton Foster. So like, if you are thinking like, oh no, I'm going to skip the ensemble. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because if you want to cover lead, you have to be in the ensemble and you have to be able to dance enough. And I'm not saying like a ton of dancing, but you have to be able to like shoulder roll point to be in the ensemble. Okay, so like, it's not as glamorous. You're not gonna show up the lead, and if you are, you're still gonna have probably a rat, like a mouse trap in your desk. And get used to it. I actually love that blue collar moment for me. Like, I love that. That makes me go, that's
it's
right.
Grounding.
That's right, girl. It's very grounding, and I love that. And then finally, you can have all the technique that you want. You can try to have all the technique that you want. You can perfect your triple pirouette, tendu, prepare, whatever that is for you. Now, let me add some elements. I'm going to put you in a new shoe that you've never worn before, a bustle with a dress and a hat that's raked on your head. I'm going to put some lights in your face, and I'm going to put like 4 layers of tights on you because you have quick changes to do later. Now, the stage is a rake, and there's going to be some tracks in it. So now try to do your pirouette. The reason I'm saying this is because I think that there's this misconception that like, oh, I can do a triple. No, it's not about your technique in doing the triple pirouette. At the end of the day, it's how you save your triple pirouette, because you will be falling out of it, because all those elements, the lights in your eyes and all those things, that's Broadway. That's what Broadway feels like. It's like, I showed up so prepared to be able to do all these perfect things, and now I've got like all these elements in my way, and I'm still doing it. So it's less about being perfect and perfecting your technique, and more about saving it and knowing how to save it, and know how to what's the word I'm looking for when you want to save something? You
problem
want to
solving or something. Like you're like,
you're constantly problem solving. You are constantly like reviving something that's gone awry. And because it's live theater, like it's never going to be perfect. And it's not like on TV where they just turn off the camera, you get another take. And sometimes, by the way, you don't get another take if you're a dancer. That crap lives forever. But like, your theater at night is going to be different day to day, depending on like literally what you ate and who's swinging in and all these elements. So the best you can do is be someone who is really good at saving it and really good at working on your feet. And that is the most important thing that you can do. So it's less about being perfect and more about being savvy.
Such excellent advice. We got to let her go to Death Becomes Her, where we can see her now. As this episode releases, this will be either right about to open or opening as we speak. We know we can follow her at Happy Meahl. That's HappyMeahl. We love a punish name. Sarah, anything else that we wanted to plug that we didn't get to throw in there?
Y'all be nice to each other, because you're going to be working together probably in 10 years. It's not worth the
That's what you
petty
want to
farce.
plug? You're plugging kindness? Sarah here is on the interview promoting kindness is what she's here to promote. So it's fantastic. Sarah, it was so fun to get to chat with you. Thanks so much for
Thank
the
you,
time
Charlie
today.
Murphy. I love you.